Hey everybody, I'm Derek and welcome back to Life Love LARP. Today I'm working in the Wooden Knight Battle Game shop and I have been asked a very serious question. One of my friends is creating a new character for a LARP that she's joining, and she's commissioned me to build her a weapon. Originally she was thinking a sword because she thought that's all I built. So in the course of the conversation she asked me if I could build axes by chance, because that's what she'd really like to do. Axes happen to be one of my favorite weapons to build. So today she gets what she asks for. Okay. So I love building axes. I like fighting with axes. I think they're a lot of fun. In fact, my two favorite weapons are a long sword or a mid-size axe, a single-handed axe and shield. So what goes into building an axe? Well, you're going to need some equipment and some tools. You're going to need some kind of razor knife, and hopefully you also have a sharpener to keep the blades sharp. You're going to need some EVA foam, either a floor mat or EVA sheet foam, which can be purchased in a few different places. It's a little harder to find. That's why most people use floor mat foam. I like to get it the same thickness as the core I'm going to be using. For a core, you can use either a carbon fiber tube or I like to use 3/8 fiberglass. It's got lots of strength and flexibility. You're also going to need some scraps of leather, the way I build them, for reinforcement. A fairly thick leather that's going to be nice and strong is going to help out quite a bit. You're going to need latex or Plastidip. I prefer latex. In Canada, Plastidip, as I've said before, is like ridiculously expensive. And then you're going to need some acrylic paints. I don't find the brand of the acrylic paint is that important. Some of the stuff I just grab at the dollar store. It works just fine. Some silver acrylic paints do react with latex and they get very thick and gummy, so they don't always work great in a sprayer, but if you're brushing them on, they work just fine. You're going to need some contact cement, some barge cement, or some type of glue. Some people have even used hot glue. I don't personally recommend it when weapon building. It's okay for costumes, but for weapons it just doesn't hold up. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So this here axe is the first axe that I ever built. In fact, it was the first weapon that I ever built. I built this for my LARP character. I was playing a beastkin beaver, and I thought what better for a beaver but to have a lumber axe or a woodman's axe to fight with. So it's held up really well. I built this about 3 years ago. I've fought many battles with it and I've really enjoyed it. After 3 years, the head is getting a little bit loose. Some of the foam is broken down in this section here and it's moving around a little bit. But I'm going to show you how I reinforce axes now. So yeah, let's get to it. All right, so a couple of things that I always like to consider when I'm building somebody a custom weapon is I like to consider the rules of the game that they're playing. Now, of course, if you're building the weapon for yourself, you're going to know what class you're playing, what skills you have, and what the system, game system weapon requirements are going to be. And based on that, you'll be able to judge the scale of your weapon, whether you want to go bigger or smaller, that kind of thing. So when we started talking the size of the axe and the design that she wanted, she had already drawn up a sketch and she sent me that over Messenger. I took a look at it and I asked her how long she wanted the handle to be. She took a measuring tape and said, yeah, probably about 14 inches would be comfortable. And when I did the math and added a blade on everything else, that was going to push her in our rule set up to the single-handed weapon. So we're probably going to go a little bit over that just to make sure it's well within the 19-inch in length. And that way, if she wants to pick up a one-handed sword, if her axe gets misplaced or she's in the battle and drops it, she can pick up a sword, whatever. She's still within the one-handed weapon skill tree. So, based on the picture, as you can see right here, we're going to sketch this out on some pattern paper before we lay it out on our foam. Pattern paper can be made from or found in a lot of different ways. My wonderful wife works at a veterinary clinic, and a lot of their packages that come into the shop are wrapped in this paper. It works great. It's got a nice waxy finish. But I have used in the past paper grocery bags. You cut the seams at the bottom, open them up. They work great for this. But you can pretty much use any kind of paper to make your patterns. So I know if I want the whole thing to be 19 inches, I'll just mark that out there. And then I'm going to mark a line straight down just so I know where my core is going to go. Now, if this was going to be all steel, I would use very precise lines, but because it's going to be wood, I'm okay with a little bit of wavering. It'll help with the shape. Now I'm going to expand that a little bit more just to give myself some room to play. And I'm going to bring that down on an angle. Now we're going to do the axe section about like that based on the sketch. So that puts her handle at 14 inches. Total length of the weapon is still going to be within the one-handed range. In our system, anything smaller than 18 inches is a small weapon. Anything larger than 19 inches and larger, up to 40 inches, is a one-handed weapon. Okay, so I've quickly sketched out on my pattern paper the rough design of what she wanted. I've used my core to give myself a nice straight line, and so now I can cut this out and lay it on top of the foam. I always cut a little bit larger than what my pattern says, just so I have some material to sand away. And yeah, so we're ready to go. An axe. Alright, now that I got my pattern cut out, I lay out my foam. Now I'm going to use my sheet foam. I'm not going to bother with the floor mats. I just don't like sanding off that rough side. Now the way I do my patterning on my foam is I just lay out my pattern. I take my chalk. I just rub it out like that. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, so like I said, I'm going to cut it rough and then use my sander to shape it. Flip it over, save myself some waste. I actually should have had this one over there first, but that's okay. I'm sure you've heard it mentioned before, but EVA foam is horrible on blades. It dulls them so fast. So it's always good to have a sharpener. I think I got this at Canadian Tire, which is just a Canadian hardware store, for about, I think about $9 or $12, I don't remember. But it has saved me a fortune in blades for my knife. Make sure you get a nice vertical angle on your cuts. Otherwise, you will have a lot of extra sanding to do and a lot of wasted material, which will change the size of your final weapon. Again, your cuts don't have to be perfect as long as you're cutting outside of your pattern line. Everything is going to get sanded and reshaped anyway, so giving yourself a little extra bulk is not necessarily a bad thing. Perfect. I'll cut out the other three and we'll pick it up from there.